bonjour, and welcome to the Amateur Detective Club. This club is exactly how it sounds. A bunch of amateurs talking about their favorite mysteries. So if you encounter a real mystery or a murder, contact the proper authorities. Do not come to us. We do not know what we are doing. But enjoy the program. Allons-y. Let us begin.
I now call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to order. My name is Tristan Miller, the Saucy Sleuth.
I'm Melissa Meli, the Spy.
I'm Tyler Riley, cop and a half.
Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/ADCpod and browse the unmatched selections of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. Don't stop. Start. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/ADCpod. I have a recommendation. And that recommendation is The Forgetting Machine by a author I forgot.
Oh.
Irony of ironies. It is, however, about how bad our memories actually are and how easily distorted reality is, and it will cause an existential crisis on a Tuesday when you listen to the whole thing while you're painting.
Oh.
If you're me.
When my boyfriend says he can't remember something that absolutely happened, hi Rich, it might have happened, but he just doesn't remember it.
Yeah. We are actually programmed to forget more than we remember, because if we remembered all the details, it would become just overwhelming and nothing. It's like the idea of a savant, like they can't produce context rather, for the information that they remember everything of. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like they have no idea why Delaware was founded whenever it was. They just know that it was. So we have a very special episode today because Tyler Riley is in studio with me in Astoria. Say hi, Tyler.
Hello. Yeah, I mean, this is the first time that we've seen each other since September, right? Because that was after the photo shoot in the park.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been since September, and I haven't seen Melissa in person since the park, right?
Right. Yeah. It's true.
Which was sometime in the summer?
August, I'm sure.
Okay.
August. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it is weird to look at Tyler and then look into the camera to see Melissa and back and forth. And there's a slight echo for me, so if I'm slowly driven mad over the course of the next, I'll be gracious, 45 minutes. That's why.
Yes. Well,
I was, like, I knew I was coming here today.
As did I, which was good.
Yes. It's always good to plan a visit in the time of COVID.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, and I waited to say this, I was like in bed last night.
And you were thinking of me.
I was, because I was like, oh my God. Because I was getting emotional about like seeing you, because I haven't seen you in so long. I was like, oh my God. What if like I have the urge to hug Tristan when I see him?
After all that fuss.
Right?
And folks, he did not.
I did not do it.
He did not, and I was fine with it. I imagine, like, I recently, as you all know, I was gonna say received a new apartment. Began renting a new apartment. I would love to receive an apartment as a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
And I've dreamt. I've laid awake at night. I've Lois laid awake at night, dreaming of a housewarming party. And in my imaginings, everyone is hugging. Maybe I kiss somebody square in the lips, but then Tyler comes over and I give him a brisk handshake.
Yeah.
And I go, how do you do? How do you do, sir? Lovely it is to see.
In about a month and a half, I can come over and start recording with you.
Good. Because of the vaccination. Because you got
Yes.
your first dose.
I did. I will be fully vaccinated, protected as much as this one can do. I'll be there about...
I don't like that.
Well, you know, there's a lot of factors in this, but
A lot of fear factors.
they're very effective vaccines. April 8th is my, like, magic 2 weeks after a second dose day. So,
Nice.
yeah. And I don't plan to, like, you know, go to a club without masks and sweat on people and, you know, breathe in their faces, but it's going to be a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Anyway, I had a
Fair.
question. I had not a question. I wanted to tell you something I tweeted, despite both of you following me on Twitter, which is, I think this is a solid joke. The Johnson & Johnson is a very effective vaccine, except for the fact that it will get in your eye despite it being a no tears vaccine.
I didn't see that one.
Okay.
That's good.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fun joke.
Very. Yeah, that's a joke you can tell your mom.
Right, yeah.
Also, speaking of Twitter and us, I did do a poll about the amount of times people have watched the film Avatar.
Oh, yes. I saw that.
Oh my! I completely forgot about James Cameron's Avatar.
Yeah, James Cameron's Avatar. And I think the results were a bit skewed, but I digress. Because the tweet got retweeted by someone who is very clearly, like, they do, like, the Navi training. And it was just like, okay.
Can I tell
Wow.
you? Avatar Twitter. You know how, like, there's Black Twitter and film Twitter and, like, Marvel Twitter?
Sure.
There is Avatar Twitter, which is, I find fascinating that there are so many people that are still amped about the movies.
Wow.
And God bless them.
Yeah.
And, you know, Disney needs them. Because they greenlit, like, 5 sequels already.
Oh, did they?
And they've shot 3 of them.
What?
So, yeah, they need those people to stay hype.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that there were, like, segmented Twitters. Like, do you, like, search it like a Reddit where, like, there's, like, a Twitter / something?
Oh,
And then you go...
as far as I know, it's just the fact that, you know, Marvel Twitter is just the people who tweet about Marvel a lot, and Disney
Mhm.
Twitter, which is absolutely a thing, is people who tweet about Disney a lot. And yeah, so it kind of exists in your mind and in content.
Your heart.
In your heart, yeah.
Precisely. And, like, film Twitter is a bunch of people who are talking about film all the time and so on and so forth.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm just on regular Twitter.
You absolutely are. You might be on wrestling Twitter. Because you're, like, it's like a little clump of community of, like, if you follow accounts that are talking all about that kind of thing.
Okay.
You get a
Gotcha.
little bubble of Twiddle.
Then yeah, I'm probably wrestling Twitter.
Yeah.
As should we all. Wrestle it to the ground and beat it to a pulp. I realize that this May, I'll have been on that cursed website for 10 years, I believe, if my math is correct.
Okay.
And thinking about just shooting it into space.
I was on Twitter before Ashton Kutcher.
Well,
Wow.
you should have gotten at Ashton Kutcher when you got it.
I should have.
You should have.
But at the time that, like, it was a thing and then I had joined it, like, they were trying... I got an account because they were trying to figure out a way to use it for, like, educational purposes at that point.
Quote, unquote.
Like, I literally was in, like, a lunch session with our superintendent of the district. Like,
Sorry,
3
I thought
media...
you were gonna say Super Nintendo. We all passed around a Super Nintendo. Sorry.
like the superintendent, one of our vice principals, like 3 teachers, immediately, like it was all about like trying to figure out the ways it could be used, like
Yeah, yeah.
in classrooms, like as a way like to poll students like in class, like everyone whips at your phone, like that whole bit. So yeah, it took
A
a real
turn.
turn.
Several turns.
Do you want to know what my
Yes.
first 2
Yes.
tweets
Yes,
Yes.
ever were?
Absolutely.
December 4th, 2008. Reviewing college applications.
Ooh.
As well as talking to Mama Franco, who is the one that led that tech lunch for Twitter. And I probably did this while in that tech lunch.
Probably.
And then the next is a quote.
Ooh.
In life, when one door closes, another door always opens. Ellipses. But the hallways are a bitch. Ronnie K. That was August 2nd, 2009.
Oh, so it
so
took
you had a year gap.
a full
I
year.
had an 8-month gap because it was
8 months.
December
Okay.
that I had tweeted before.
Wow.
It wasn't popular when I was on it at that time.
I want to say, Melissa, I feel quite bad for you in this moment because
No?
because Tyler and I we share this special bond of being in the same room, and we're like sharing looks
Yeah.
and like ooh, and I feel bad because were you here as well, we would be doing the same thing, being a bit cheeky. But as it stands, I don't know. I just wish you were here, I guess is what
Aw.
I'm saying. I wish you
Well,
were
thank
here.
you. I wish I were there in a way as well.
In a way. But in another way, you hate being around me.
It is certainly not that.
But like this was like a bit of like a weird week. Like I was rather quite like upset. Like I was as sad as a cypress even.
Oh.
Ding dang it.
And Sad Cypress is the title of today's episode of Agatha Christie's Poirot, Series 9, Episode 2.
Can I tell you, I was thinking episode 2, and I want to pretend that I sent that into your brain. Also, fun fact, folks, Cypress is not spelled with an S, as I have the file saved on my computer.
Jesus.
I mean, there's
Jesus
S's
is
in
spelled
it, but not at the beginning.
No, not at the beginning. There's not 3 S's, just the 2. Dyslexia
So-
is a hell of a drug.
Yeah. We
Gotta
open
suppress the S.
What could that possibly mean?
You put too many S's. Suppress one. But this episode, I'm going to start it off because this is the only bit I remember.
Oh, great.
So, so this episode starts off with a woman named Eleanor, this very young, lovely lady. We get her internal monologue as she is on trial for the murder of someone else, which we'll find out later on in the episode.
Yes.
And she like pans over, those are there in the courtroom, including Hercule Poirot. And she's like, I bet he's wondering why I did this murder.
She's talking about why should I be sorry when I wanted them dead?
And at one point during this, they say, gentlemen of the jury, one of the lawyers does, and I realized, oh, there are only men on the juror.
Yeah.
It's 12 angry men.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ever think about that? That
About how
movie
there
in
weren't
play?
women on juries for a while?
Yeah. You ever think about that? Because I didn't.
And how much justice used to be carried.
Uh,
Oh,
I love you. Don't hit me next time you see me, Melissa.
he doesn't enjoy the physical contact.
no, I know. It's all good.
Is it?
Well,
Mm.
that's between Tyler and his own psyche. But
So you say you go to church, though, Tyler. Do you do confession? Because
No, I'm not Catholic. I'm Catholic light, Episcopal.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Episcopalian.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'd like to be an Episcopal to the both of you.
Oh, you Lutheran with
wish-
that.
Oh, Tyler's face during that was great.
I Protestant can't put up Protestant can't put up with this.
Well, it depends on the Methodist
Oh.
you use.
That's the church I went to growing up, BTW.
Oh,
Methodist.
I always used to think the church was racist. Not because of anything anyone ever did, but I would always see like the Methodist church that we would pass, and like there was like a cross with like a flame.
oh,
And it was
I
like
see.
they just burning crosses, a bunch of racist Ku Klux Klan members.
Oh, yeah, no, that's not the intention behind the flame.
That's where the honkies worship God. Uh,
But I learned over time that is not the case.
Yeah. So then we get the credits, the opening credits.
oh yeah.
I was like, oh, quick episode.
And yeah, we're still in the land of we wanna really tell everyone this is a movie now.
Yeah, but I will say that because I won't talk about it much in my wrap up, but like there is like even between the first episode of this series and this, it's very clear that it is two separate creative teams.
Oh yeah. Two different directors.
Two different screenwriters. Like it is very separate.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So then we get a scene with an engaged couple who is having a very nice afternoon.
Sky rockets in flight.
Exactly. Afternoon delight. Yes. So they are Eleanor Carlisle and Roddy Winter.
I hardly know her.
Mhm. And she's gotten a threatening letter about her aunt, saying that like someone in the house is gonna plot to kill her. So, what does he think of that? And they decide that they're gonna go visit her. So that they go to her manor. She's very sickly, and it seems like they're trying to imply that she's elderly, but she looks like she's about 45.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she has had a stroke prior,
Yeah.
according to the gentleman.
Yes.
Yes.
So they see the former late gardener's daughter, Mary, and she's
Oh right.
Mary.
there
Now
we
this
go.
woman, and I mean this with the utmost respect in the world to both of the people I'm gonna say the names of eventually, looks so much like Eddie Redmayne. I could not concentrate.
Who does?
Is it Eddie or Freddie? I can never
No,
remember.
it's Eddie.
Who are you talking about?
He's Newt Scamander in
No. Which actor are you talking about in
Actress. Actress who plays Mary looks like him, specifically from
In
the
The
movie
Danish
The
Girl.
Danish Girl.
Okay. Yes. Sorry, I know who. I do know who Eddie Redmayne is.
which still works for me either way.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, doesn't matter. So, the aunt tells Eleanor that one should never really care too much for a man. Enough, but not too much. She's like, "Are you happy with your fiance?" And she's like, "Yeah, I love him." She's like, "Well, yeah, keep that in check," which I think is good advice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Loving someone too much it's too much. You get
As we have seen in a good 8 series worth of Poirot already. You can love somebody way too
To death, literally.
we get some scenes where Mr. Roddy Winter is having, a good laugh with Mary, and we get the idea that maybe he thinks she's real pretty. We also get a scene with the doctor, who is taking care of the aunt, and
I would like to say something about Mary and Roddy.
great.
They used to be very, very close friends growing up, and I believe were in a brief relationship.
Oh, okay. I
Yes,
didn't.
which is one of the main sources of anxiety for Eleanor as well, coming to visit the aunt,
Mm-hmm.
because she knew that Mary was going to be there. So she's already kind of high strung. A lot of people having bad vacations in this series.
It's so
This
true.
Honestly, like, and poor Poirot. Any time he tries like to take a break or just be somewhere in the world, it's like, can he ever rest?
Nope.
The answer is yeah.
He's
a
got to solve
resounding no.
murders. He has to solve murders. It's his purpose, and it comes for him all the time.
I just want him to have like a 30-minute special a la Pikachu's Vacation, where it's just nothing but Poirot hijinks and he's having a grand old time.
Yeah. That sounds very pleasant. Very undramatic and very pleasant.
But the problem with that is, it would just be, and this is almost genius. I would want like Werner Herzog to direct this. It would just be him sitting in a parlor, smoking and eating chocolates. That's it for 30 minutes.
I disagree, because I don't think he would vacation by himself in this particular special.
Okay.
It would be him and like Hastings, and then like
right.
Miss Lemon, and then Jap and his wife arrive, but you never see his wife. She like immediately like goes upstairs because she like got car sick or something. Like we find a way to just write her out, but she's there.
Yeah, much like Columbo's wife.
And they go to the theater and have dinner.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, back to the
No, I'm talking about Poirot's Vacation. The special that we're making. David Suchet.
So it's like a National Lampoon's Poirot's Vacation is what we're suggesting. Is that correct?
I'm willing to, shift tracks and do that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Chevy Chase is there, and he's the racist person.
What was the I almost said Wahlbergs. What was her last name in the Vacation series? What's the last name of the
Griswold?
Griswold. I know it was a W.
Why do I know that? I've only seen one of the movies once. Anyway,
which one?
Not the Christmas one, the other one.
Oh, okay.
Just National Lampoon's Vacation.
Oh, okay. Because I watched Vegas Vacation before.
There's more than two?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I only liked Vegas Vacation because of the cars.
Cars are fun.
Yeah.
I have seen Christmas Vacation only.
With all three of us.
There we go.
We watched, yeah.
We did it.
Now, we're going to start a new podcast where we recount what we remember of each National Lampoon's Vacation.
Oh, boy. Yes, so the aunt is talking about, hey, Mr. Doctor, maybe you could just give me a little bit more of the pain medication and I can just go to sleep and be out of my misery.
More fiend, if you will.
Yeah.
Oh.
And he's like, yeah, I get you, but unfortunately, I don't really want to be on trial for murder. She's like, well, all right then.
So Paul McCann, who plays the Doctor, also plays Doctor Who in the Doctor Who film. He plays the 8th Doctor? No. The one before Christopher Eccleston.
So
that killed the series.
The 8th Doctor.
Yes, so the 8th Doctor. I've never seen the film, but he has great hair.
Yeah.
And he is also Mark in the series Luther with Idris Elba.
So they ask the Doctor about the letter. And he's like, no, I have no idea. I don't know anyone who would want to kill.
He says no more monkeys jumping on the bed. I'm sorry. I cannot. I gotta stop interrupting.
He clearly doesn't know who the possible letter writer was.
Yes.
And
he says, but you know what? I think I know who will know what to do. I have a friend nearby who happens to be staying in town. It is Hercule Poirot. And there he finally is.
He finally is. before this point, do we get introduced to the two creepy maids that gossip all the time?
Yeah, I mean,
The two-
they're around. They're big fans of Mary, and
Yes.
obviously don't like Eleanor. And she's constantly gossiping with Mary and saying how great Mary is. And Eleanor's like, Jesus Christ, could we please not? So there's that. But Poirot is extremely bored because he's there preparing for the trial of a case he solved like a year ago. And someone says to him, "Oh, that must be terribly exciting." And he says, "For me, it is like eating the same meal 3 times a day," or something like that. So he sees that there's a guy named Ted who's been trying to date Mary. And he is shown the letter, and Poirot says, "I'm so glad you showed this to me, because this letter, you see how hard this person was writing. This letter was written with malice, because they've like left indentations on the paper." So he's really concerned. And the doctor and Mr. Winter, everybody is like, "I don't know about this letter. It's probably just a prank." And Poirot's like, "No, I really don't think it is."
Have you ever written a threatening letter as a prank, folks? To whom it may concern.
Yeah, seriously. So Roddy and Eleanor are going to bed. They have separate rooms for some unearthly reason, because they're just engaged. They're not married. What a scandal that would be. Premarital sex. Oh heavens.
Don't know why that made me giggle. I'm blushing. I don't know why. Honestly, this isn't a bit. I was like, oh.
And as I was watching, I was like, perfectly reasonable.
It's like, ooh.
So they're in separate beds, and at some point during the night, you see the aunt with the most horrifying CPAP-looking machine, and she's struggling to breathe. And so Eleanor is roused from her bed, and she runs in to see what's going on with her aunt, and she sees Mary in there fiddling with the CPAP machine, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And Mary says, "I am helping her." And then she can see that her aunt is breathing better, and so she's like, "Okay, of course, yes, thank you." But she obviously is very suspicious, because all signs are pointing to her changing the will. Her wanting to change her will or something like that. Wanting to include Mary, because she feels responsible for her. And so Eleanor is, having difficulty with the entire Mary situation.
Because Mary is an orphan.
So Poirot is invited to the house, and they're having like a cocktail party, and they're all chatting. And Mr. Winter mentions socialism, and Poirot is absolutely horrified. I always love those touches where someone's like, "Whoa, socialism makes sense," and someone goes, "What are you talking about?"
Much like how 50% of Americans react to socialism.
Started.
The night after that party, the aunt is getting bad sleep again. I don't know her name. I'm sorry.
Auntie.
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 And she is gasping for air, asking for the photo of Lewis, and her housekeeper is like, "I've got to call the doctor." She's like, no, please get me the photo. And then, so the housekeeper, who ostensibly is in a hurry, makes her leisurely way to get this photograph for this, gasping woman, and hands it to her. And then I really was struck by how much she said she was in a hurry and how little of a hurry she actually seemed to be in.
She stops for coffee on the way. She goes to the bodega and picks up a sandwich.
Makes a personal call.
Long distance, if you can believe.
So finally, after getting this photograph, she sends for the doctor, and it seems that she's had another stroke.
Genius.
She's alive, but her speaking is very slurred, and the next day Eleanor is trying to make out what she's saying. It sounds like she wants to write someone out of her will or something like that. But it's really, really hard to tell. Unfortunately, that night, this is where my notes stop, so it's just...
I believe this is the night, though, that Eleanor observes something that she is not supposed to see.
Yeah, the following night after the aunt has had her stroke, her second stroke, the first one while she's there, the second one altogether. That evening, Eleanor says, "Okay, I'm gonna go upstairs," and Roddy's like, "Yeah, sure, honey, I'll see you in a little while," and she lingers for a minute, and she sees Mary and Roddy making out.
Mm-hmm.
They're smooching.
And then a maid comes down and says, "Eleanor, you need to come quickly." Yes.
In this little makeout that Roddy and Mary do, he is almost like grabbing her tush. Like the actor is like in it, which is more risque than we've normally seen on Poirot. But he's like full, like, you know how you grab someone by the hips?
Hey, when you got a pog in your presence, man.
Representation matters.
Sorry. But not cool. Of Roddy.
No.
Criminy.
I just don't get why people can't just keep it in their pants. Like, I truly just, like, I mean, I get it on, like, some level, like, the idea. But, like, to actually try to, like, double dip, especially in the same house, like, who, like...
Twice in a row we've had this.
Oh, my gosh. And it's just, like, the ego won, and then who has the time? Or the energy, for that matter. Good grief.
Oh my goodness. That is part of the reason I know that Rich would never cheat on me. The first one is that he wouldn't because he's a good man. The second one is I literally don't know when he would. Even when he's apart from me. He works so much and keeps so busy that he doesn't have time. There's no time. No time for cheating.
None.
I'll cheat when I'm dead. Is that anything?
Well, if you go first, I guess.
Yeah. The Bible does say there's no wives and husbands in heaven. So, do with that with what you will.
Like early 2000s Missy Elliott song. I'm a get my freak on. So
just like that, yes.
100%. It's your myth-of nap nipple.
So the nurse comes down and says, "Eleanor, you have to come quick. She is in a bad way." And so our dear auntie is dead.
That is what I want to play once my casket is lowered into the ground. Of a trombonist, just
put it in your will. Speaking of wills, they find out that she didn't have a will. But that means that everything goes to Eleanor. And she says, "Okay, that sounds fine.
Yeah, works for me."
Yeah, sounds great. Cool. Yeah, the person administering the will says, "Yeah, I guess she just was being superstitious and didn't want to leave a will because she was afraid that she would jinx herself and that she would die if she made a will."
Which gives that, like, makes that previous conversation like so peculiar.
Yeah, about the assisted suicide idea. I don't know. It's really weird. Anyway, so we also do have a graveside service, and the doctor asks Poirot not to look into her death. She's like, seriously, this is a natural causes death. Do not worry about it. And Poirot's like, I don't know. That note, though, that letter really makes me nervous about this. And he's like, just leave it alone. He says, I guess. All right. We do also find out that morphine has been stolen from one of the nurses' bags. That
Yes.
Prior
there
to
are two. There are two nurses.
Yeah.
Both of which are the creepiest two middle-aged women I have ever seen in my life. Chronic bad vibes, specifically from the one who is either Irish or is putting on an Irish accent. The character is from Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Disney level bad vibes from like a stepmom or something. Like, I don't know. Just ugh.
No, like, yeah.
Yeah, just they both have very bad vibes, which is, pertinent to the episode.
Agreed. So Eleanor decides to give Mary some money.
Quite kindly.
Yeah. And Mary has everyone loves Mary, and Mary has such a bad attitude.
Everybody loves Mary.
It is.
Does she?
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, I mean, there's something about Mary.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
It's true.
Don't you
My
do
hair?
this?
Just.
Remember when that was in a movie that made several thousands of dollars?
Yeah, it's true.
Ugh.
But Eleanor has a confrontation with her fiance Roddy, and she says, "Listen, are you ever gonna come clean, or do we have to come? I have to come out and say it. You're hooking up with Mary. Here's your ring back. Like, come on." He's
And
like,
Roddy looks at the camera and goes, "Ain't I, you stinker?"
if you can believe it, that is what happened.
I can't believe it's not Bugs Bunny.
So,
what a maroon.
What an ink-cow-poop.
Eleanor is making sandwiches for a tea, and she goes to a shop and she gets some fish pastes, which sound weird, but maybe delicious. I'm not sure.
I was thinking it was like some kind of like smoked salmon something.
Yeah, like
Sure.
lox.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Also, you might be in the camp of Poirot, who detests it, which is understandable. Like, fish is such a... it's hit or miss.
Yeah, you really have to be into it to do like it in a sandwich.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, talking, if we're keeping it 100, Burger King's Big Fish Sandwich, A+.
Is it?
Phenomenal sandwich.
Okay, because I've always been in the filet of fish camp from the McDonald's. So I've been like reticent to try like other fast food fish sandwiches.
For brand loyalty?
I didn't say it was logical. I just said it was something.
Okay.
Well, perhaps it is because it is for the same reasons that I have been reticent to try any fast food fish.
Yes.
Because so if you like something, like, great, keep getting it, but like, it's it could be a very bad situation. It's not like this is a bad chicken sandwich, which is usually edible. Because a bad fish sandwich is terrible. And I like fish,
that's fair.
so I mean, maybe I'll give a try to a fillet of fish someday. But
this is what I will say. It's kind of like getting fish sticks or fish fillets that are frozen.
Sure.
However, it's still going to give you diarrhea. So you use your own discretion. It's not, but it might. It's fine. Like, the fish it won't go like quote unquote bad per se.
Because there's too much salt.
Because of the fact that like it's frozen food and it's already been pre-cooked and yada yada yada. However, depending on the time of day, if you don't get a fresh fish fillet, you might find your way to having an upset tummy.
I mean, that's fair.
You know, and that's universal for fast food in general, though. That's a risk you take whenever you go into a McDonald's.
I don't know. Maybe I just have a stronger constitution.
A constitution of a peasant, if you might say. Is that in this episode or
it's in
next episode?
It's in Death on the Nile.
Okay.
Yeah.
A real quick shout out to the Shamrock Shake, though.
Oh.
Available back at McDonald's for a limited time only.
Is the McRib back also?
The McRib was back. I don't know if it still is. They definitely gave it to us in quarantine, though, which I appreciated. I did not take advantage of it. Because I've never had a McRib.
I've never had either.
My school lunch, they used to do something very similar. Like, it was a boneless rib sandwich. It was not very popular at my school, but, like, they did it.
Yeah. I've been always afraid to try it.
Can I tell you? So she does make these sandwiches on the thinnest bits of bread I have ever seen in my gosh darn life. And I'm like, what is this, communion?
No, because it's being served with tea.
Yeah. Have you ever had a tea?
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
Tristan.
you haven't done tea properly, so
I've never
no.
I've never seen tea. I've never, no.
Once things open back up, we're going to do an afternoon tea.
Yes.
Hosted by yours truly.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. I was going to say there's plenty of good restaurants in New York, but that's even better.
The paper thin sandwiches.
That's
These
how it
sandwiches.
works.
Which is the only way I will make a cucumber sandwich. They specifically sell thin slices of bread specifically for these types of sandwiches.
So she's made these tiny, weird sandwiches.
Tea sandwiches,
that,
yes.
The opposite of a club sandwich.
A library?
What?
Opposite of club? Library?
That seems correct.
Because clubs are very noisy and libraries
very
are
quiet.
quiet. Yeah.
Shh. Which I say, shh. Shh. For once, I'm trying to contribute to the plot of this episode.
Oh my god, Tristan's telling me to shut up.
Oh, how the turntables. So, she's made these tiny little sandwiches, little fingy sandwiches, and so there's fish paste, and there's salmon, which is Mary's favorite, and then there's other fish.
Shrimp, it's like a shrimp and crab combo.
Yeah. Which,
Sounds
I
good.
can understand as well. Like, no, that like a lobster roll one might get during Lobster Fest at Red Lobster.
Yeah.
So they're eating sandwiches, and then Eleanor's acting real weird. She's like,
She is.
spacing out and fully disassociating from what's going on. And I don't mean that in like the colloquial sense. She's like having a crisis.
Yeah.
And then they finish up, and the housekeeper, whose names we have not established.
It doesn't matter.
She will always be Mrs. Hughes from Downton Abbey to me. So I've just been, in my mind, referring to her as Mrs. Hughes. That is not the character's name. And Mrs. Hughes would never act like this character.
So Mrs. Hughes goes and does the washing up. And Eleanor comes in with some more of the plates and cups and saucers and all this. And Mrs. Hughes is over the sink cleaning, and Eleanor goes, "You got a mark on your arm. What happened?" And they're like, "Oh, the rose bush in the garden pricked me." Ooh. And she's like, "Okay, whatever." And then they chat for a little bit. The other maid shows up very creepily, because there's this elevator, there's this lift.
Yes.
In this manner that goes up and down, and it comes down, and then the other. Yeah, that's what a lift does. You don't you laugh at me for explaining what a lift do? So for those of you who don't know, a lift or an elevator is a series of mechanisms that takes a small room and goes up and down a shaft to get from one floor to the other, so you don't have to take the GD stairs. So anyway, the lift comes down, As it's wont to do. Do you remember Wayside School where they had
Yes.
elevators, the one that went up and one that went down, and they used it once? So anyway, this lift comes down. The other very creepy Irish maid comes out, and she's like, "Oh, I was just getting something from the other room there." And Eleanor's like, "Okay, you're terrifying." And then they go, "I wonder what happened to Mary," because they all meet in the hallway. And then they go, "Oh, she's probably, I left her in the parlor, wherever they had tea."
Yeah.
And then they go back and they think that she's asleep and she's dead. Also,
Mary, Mary
is dead.
Is dead.
Mary is actually very ill, she says, and they rush her off to the doctor. However, also sometime during tea, someone thinks they see a man through the window. So then it cuts to, oh, no, it does not cut. And this is something I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
This episode uses wipes. Are you familiar with the editing term a wipe?
Remind me.
I don't, yeah.
It's where you have one image
Uh-huh.
and it like pushes the other image to the
Oh,
side.
yes.
It wipes it as if, you're cleaning. And they use it, and it's unfortunate. It's so hokey. It brings me out of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
But they use it consistently. And so we wipe to Eleanor being arrested for the murder of Mary, because she seems to be the most likely suspect. And thus, finally, an hour into the podcast, the investigation begins. And also an hour into this movie, might I add.
Yeah. Like, it's a long pull to get there.
Yeah.
Yes. So Poirot comes back and he says, "Listen, we have got to exhume the aunt. Come on. I think something happened." Eleanor has been arrested. Everyone's like, obviously she did it. Mary broke up her engagement. Like, this is easy, open shut case.
And Roddy was planning on marrying Mary.
Yes.
Because we get that scene with the two housekeepers and Mary.
Yeah. To his credit, I suppose, Roddy does not think that Eleanor did it, though.
No.
And Poirot actually asks him, "Would you be wanting to marry Eleanor if she were to get out of prison? Like, if she were to be exonerated?" And he's like, "No, come on. I mean, I think I've pretty well ruined that one." Which is also, good on him.
Yeah.
I suppose, giving credit where credit's due, for that one thing. So, so we go back to the courtroom where we had started our journey, and she's convicted. She is put into death row. They're going, you hear the judge hand down the death sentence for her. And
yeah, she's gonna be hung.
So the Doctor Who acts as the Hastings of this episode.
Yeah.
Going with Poirot on many an interview. He interviews all of the people that were surrounding the murder. And it is found out through the series of investigations that also Mary has an aunt in New Zealand with whom she has been corresponding for many years. This aunt, she sends her gifts quite often, and Mary's will, everything goes to that aunt under the advisement of that aunt. And should be noted, I mean, that kind of gets into like who did it, so I guess I'll save that for later. No, it's revealed now. I'll say it now. Shh. Oh, it's fine. Go ahead. Anyway, Tristan, just talk. The housemaid, Mrs. Hughes. Housemaid is not the housekeeper, Mrs. Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
Advised Eleanor's aunt to not make a will because of the superstitious nonsense. It also comes out that at some point, Poirot gets out of Mrs. Hughes that Mary is the illegitimate child of Eleanor's aunt.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then the groundskeeper is somehow involved. He goes to the groundskeeper and says, "Did you see anything?" He goes, "I saw a car. Did you recognize it?" No. That's the information he gets from him. And then also Roddy is back in town despite saying he would have left. And then he comes back for some reason, which
Well,
is
he
also
was-
suspect.
He had come back because he was going to ask Mary to marry him.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it also seems suspect now
Sure.
because of Mary winding up dead.
Yeah.
And I think this is a point where that's basically all the information, and then we get the reveal, or is there more?
Let's go to an ad break.
Okay, let's go to an ad break. Hello, boys and girls, and everyone in between. We're on the Scavengers Network. You can go to scavengersnetwork.com and check out all their great podcasts. Journey Under 30 just had their last episode, so you can go and listen to the whole backlog there because Colin, the founder of Scavengers Network, turned 30, and so now that podcast is done.
Yeah.
And you could go
that journey
look
is
at
over.
the journey is over, and the 30s were the friends that we made along the way.
It's true.
It is true. If there's one thing you get from this podcast, so you could also go to teespring.com/themill and look at all our merchandise there. We got mugs, we got shorts, we got pinback buttons, we got stickers, we got Yo Mama.
Oh.
I don't know. That's right. I've personally disassembled your mother, and you, that's right, you, and I'm selling her parts on the black market.
Good.
That is Teespring.
.com?
Exp.com. Remember Expedia?
I do.
Okay.
You can find us on social media at ADC Pod on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And,
Speaking of .com.
and you can email us with very nice emails. amateurdetectiveclub@gmail.com is our email address.
Hello, fellow lovers of liberty.
Oh.
Here we go.
Are you down to own the libs? Well, go where all the patriots go, which is patreon.com/ADCpod. For as little as $1 a month, you can receive access to bonus episodes and content early. As well as our Discord channel, since we've got taken off the Facebooks and the Twitter. This is our social media platform to say what we want to say by protecting all of our rights. Patreon.com/ADCpod today. Freedom!
Ooh, freedom. Speaking in no way of freedom? No, that, I don't know. I am involved in a production that is going to be going up on Zoom, a reading of sorts, filled with much more interesting things than just reading, in fact. There is some staging and some singing, lots of singing, because it's a musical. It is called
Ooh.
Star-Crossed, the musical, and it is being put up by 16th Note Productions. And I am in the ensemble. It's a great time. It is a take on Romeo and Juliet. It tells the story of Mercutio and Tybalt before it's like right before the action of Romeo and Juliet, and like into it. it like goes through, I believe, Act 3 of Romeo and Juliet, but it's from the perspectives mostly of Tybalt and Mercutio.
So it's the Rogue One of Romeo and Juliet.
It is
what
the
you're
Rogue
saying.
One of Romeo and Juliet, yes. And
Well, with that in mind, I will Tybalt over to Zoom and watch it.
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
absolutely. So look for that on March 29th. We will make sure, I will certainly be tweeting about it. And make sure to stay tuned for links. But that's going to be on the evening of March 29th, 2021.
Two things. One, as is required of me by the great state of Arkansas, I
Oh.
must say, every week, butt soup.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I want to personally thank Senator Ted Cruz for doing our Patreon ad this week.
Oh. I'm like, what are we thanking Ted Cruz for, Tristan? Got it. Yes, that makes sense.
He took time out of his Cancun vacation to film an ad for us. The least we can do.
I believe he was going to Mexico to make sure the wall was still going up.
Mm.
Back to the show. Okay, so Poirot, he goes to talk to Eleanor in prison, who she says some things and cries, and it is a very good actor. And I can't remember the things she says. But after that, he goes, aha, I have it. And he brings everybody to the manor. By the way, side note, he's been working with the local authorities, who has a sheriff that is Scottish, and he does a very fine job. So, we're at the manor. Roddy and Doctor Who are there. And he says, was it you that the gardener saw? And he's like, no. And he goes, haha, you lying son of a bastard. You lied to me because the groundskeeper said it was you because he saw you. What were you doing? You're just checking in on her? And he's like, yeah, her being Eleanor. Because he fancies Eleanor.
Aw.
Yeah. And then he's like, you two just wait a minute. I'm going to go to the other room, which is a wild thing to do because one of them is a murderer.
It's true.
So he goes to the housekeeper and they have a cup of tea. And they sit and they chat, and basically Poirot accuses her of being the aunt from New Zealand, and she's like, well, yes, you got me, and I would have gotten away with it, and I'm still gonna get away with it because I've poisoned the tea, because the way it works is she had the antidote to the poison that she poisoned Cusco with. She poisoned Mary with, and because consequently she would get all of Mary's inheritance, and knowing that Mary was the illegitimate child of the aunt,
Yes.
all of the aunt's inheritance would trickle down Reaganomics style
Yep.
to her.
And
And
just like Reaganomics, it doesn't quite work out for her.
well, I think it was quite a good idea to murder. Nancy and I have been watching this show, and anyway, and so Poirot does a very good bit of play acting as if he's drank the tea, and he hasn't. He clearly cannot choose the tea in front of him, etc. And she, however, has drunk the tea, and he has taken from her handbag the antidote, and then the police come in and arrest her and presumably give her the antidote and then hang her, because if you're gonna die, the government's gonna choose how you do it.
That's right.
And so then Mary is still dead.
Mary is still dead, yeah.
Eleanor gets exonerated, and Doctor Who and she drive off into the sunset.
That's right.
And that's the episode.
Oh, by the way, the aunt was poisoned too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I figured they figured that out.
When they exhumed the body, they did confirm that, of course, Poirot was correct that she had been murdered.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. All right. So, I guess I'll start.
Sure.
despite having a difficult time remembering exactly what was going on in this episode, I enjoyed it thoroughly. I did figure out who... It was one of the two housekeepers. They were too creepy to not be involved. And I needed to figure out which one was it. And... how do I put this? I knew everything that Poirot knew as he knew it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Which is very nice.
Right, you start...
Or slightly before. Like, the minute Mary was there, I'm like, oh, clearly she's the actual daughter of
Okay.
the aunt. Like, immediately, I'm like, oh, of course. And this sort of thing. And in the garden party where socialism is mentioned, there's also a moment with the salmon paste where Mary goes, oh, that's my favorite. And I was like, that's how they're going to presume that she got poisoned. And then when the tea scene happened, I'm like, well, it's clearly the tea because it can't be the thing. And it was like all this, like, figuring it out as it went along quite nicely, though.
Sure, yeah. Solving it along with Poirot. That's cool.
Yeah. Yes, and I thought all the acting was good, and oh, criminy, we forgot to talk about the best scene.
Okay.
The way Poirot figures out that Mary is related to the aunt is he has a dream. He has a horrifying dream. He has a terrible dream. And in this dream, he sees Mary turn to him, and a skull is overimposed, and it morphs into the aunt's face, and it is disturbing, and I literally said, while I was watching this, I went, ugh! And it was awful, and it gave me the heebie-jeebies. The rest of so off-putting, beautifully done, and... I am not someone who is easily off-put. However, that did it. The morph is what did it.
That
into
milk.
This other person's face. Ugh. Criminy. And I loved that. My hair's, the hairs on my neck stood up. I enjoyed this episode very thoroughly. I was along for the ride, and it was figuring out, like, how, not who, and I always like that. And seeing Paul McCann was great. So 8.5 out of 10. Really enjoy this episode, despite having a hard time remembering it. Much like my lovemaking.
Oh. That's...
You hardly remember it?
Yeah, it's like I'm sure it happened. We have a child. No.
You just go into a fugue state. Fascinating. So, I also really liked the episode. The reason that I kind of dropped out there was because I got vaccine dose 1 and was very exhausted through the end of it. So, mea culpa, but you know.
Yeah.
I did pick up that Eleanor did not do it, and I was very excited to figure out how, because I couldn't figure out how she wasn't the murderer because she was acting so sus.
Yeah.
But yeah.
As the youth say.
Yeah, as the youth say, as we are contractually obligated to say after we say that.
That's suspicious.
So, yes, I liked it very much. I thought the performances were very good, as Tristan mentioned, and story was interesting. Interesting to follow. So I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10.
I'm not gonna give it a rating. I don't remember it. I only remember the very end and the very beginning. Anything in the middle kind of went over my head. Like, I remember the bits where I chimed in are the bits I remember, and those were very sparse. I don't think anyone did a bad job. It just went.
Stick.
Yeah, it did not stick at all.
Interesting. For me, I know the reason I had a difficult time, and this is always the issue when we record more than one episode of Poirot in a day. Mm-hmm. And I even made a reference to Death on the Nile, which is the thing we're covering next and we've already watched. They start to blend together in my mind. Right. And so I have a hard time remembering the first mystery and who and why and what and how and all this.
Sure.
That's fair.
Okay.
So that's why for me it didn't stick as well. Not because, but I remember I was engaged the entire time, and the way I know this is I was not on my phone.
Right.
So I remember enjoying watching the movie. And I'll say this, I think that the fact that these are films now, these are made-for-TV movies as opposed to what feels like an episode of Poirot, has made it more engaging for me personally.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, the tonal shift. Because, like, watching something that's from, like, the 80s or 90s that's a television show, much like, for example, when I watch Star Trek, it's such a warm bundle that I relax almost too much.
I see.
If that makes sense. Also, throwing a morph to a skull in the middle of your movie will keep me awake, it turns out.
Yeah, I missed that entirely, and I don't know how.
I don't know how to describe the feeling I had. It was almost pleasurable, but not like that. But like, you know how a roller coaster is frightening?
Yes.
But also exciting?
I know exactly what you mean.
It was like that for me. I don't know. Ooh, it's like saying Mufasa.
Okay, that I understand.
Yes. Listener, tweet at us and tell us which one of us had the best excuse for not remembering this episode.
Yes, please.
Oh, please do.
We're
You
here
can
for
email at
entertainment,
us.
not accuracy. You know this.
Correct. We got anything else?
Stay tuned for next week's episode.
Death on the Nile, in which someone dies upon the Nile.
Well, I'm going to tell you in just a second.
Ooh.
Not the Kenneth Branagh film, which comes out later this year,
Yes.
which we will also be covering.
100%.
So,
yes, we will.
which is kind of a bummer for me, because I was hoping to be surprised by that movie, and now I will only be surprised that Armie Hammer was not replaced by a different actor, much like All the Money in the World. Unfortunately, they can no longer get Christopher Plummer. May he rest in peace.
They did get him out of the Jennifer Lopez film. He was supposed to do Shotgun
yes,
Wet.
yeah.
And they were like, nope.
Here's my thing about
Keep him away from Jennifer.
That's
as
great.
well. We must protect her. Here's my thing. His publicist quit. And to put that into perspective, Bill Cosby's publicist did not quit. Kevin Spacey's publicist did not quit. Donald Trump's publicist did not quit. What did Armie Hammer do? I think it was eat people. I'm fully on board.
Or maybe
Allegedly.
he just had a publicist that had a spine. I don't know.
I find it more believable that someone would be eating people than a publicist would have a spine. Am I right, folks?
Or maybe the publicists had skeletons of their own. Were like, oh, they're poking at him. I don't need anybody looking at my background. I'm out.
There we go. That's probably
And the skeletons were provided by Armie Hammer.
But next week, Death on the Nile. A wealthy American heiress honeymooning on a Nile cruise ship is stalked by a former friend whose boyfriend she had stolen before making him her new husband.
And it's in Egypt.
Mostly.
Not really. I mean, I think you're just in denial.
Oh. And with that, I now call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to a close.
Gavel
Gavel
sound.
sound. Ugh.
Was it good for you?